What's up, everyone? Welcome to the High Passion Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel K, and we're here with another great guest, Jamie Levitate.
What's up, everybody?
Jamie is the graphic designer, sign builder, and printer for Levitate Studios, and he's here to tell us about what they have to offer and talk about his relationship with cannabis and his current struggle with CHS. Let's get into it. Well, thanks for coming out, man. I'm glad you made the mission. You know, I know it was a bit of a hike for you, but finally getting you here and start talking about what you do.
Thanks for having me, man.
So let's tell everyone right off the bat what you do at Levitate Studios, man.
I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I do printing, graphics, a little bit of everything, some videos, but a lot of custom graphics.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you do, what other services, what are all the services you offer under your umbrella there?
So I guess under like a wide range of like brand development oriented things. So everything from like logo design to menu design, photography, product photography.
Okay.
Even down to like some audio for like video and stuff like that, but a little less of that than everything else.
I saw the other day on your Instagram that you did that little commercial shoot, and I mean, it came out really well by the end of it. It was
Thanks very much,
impressive. I didn't know you offered those things.
Yeah, sometimes it's easier to say the things that I don't do than the things that I do.
Yeah.
The green screen and blue screen work is like kind of relatively new-ish compared to a lot of the other stuff, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how did you get into, I mean, I guess the first question would be, where did it start for you? You know, was it in the printing side, in the graphic design side? What kind of kicked it off for you?
Depending on how far you want to go back. So I've been doing like signage for years, like almost 20 years now.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Pretty close to right out of high school, essentially. And for a long time, I was just fabricating the signs, like creating the LEDs and wiring them and installing them and stuff like that. Yeah. And as COVID happened and I started to wind down, I was right in the middle of building my own computer.
Okay.
And I had the idea that I wanted to get into graphics, like in sign work, setting up a lot of the designs for the signs is kind of part of it. Mostly vector-based work, so nothing too fancy, like not any like digital drawing or anything like that.
Got you.
But as I was building the computer and I was like learning about how to do that, because I hadn't done that before, I started watching videos on like YouTube.
Okay.
And there are these guys that were just drawing these incredible like pieces and stuff, like things you'd see in like digital comics or like even some anime stuff. And there was like these videos where they just have a conversation while they're drawing. You could watch what they're doing.
Okay.
Kind of fell in love with that. I was like, I want to do that. So through COVID, I kind of made the transition from basically doing the signage to kind of spending a lot of time on the computer and creating logos. Like it started with vector-based logos at first, which is mostly shapes. And,
I was going to say, so what does that mean for the viewers? I mean, I don't really know either, but...
So vector-based artwork, like a lot of text and stuff when you're working in like a program like, say, Adobe or Corel, which is what I mainly work in for a lot of the vector stuff.
Okay.
It's like... I guess the best way to explain it to someone who doesn't know is the way the computer understands it is it understands the fill of the object and the edges of the object.
Okay.
So in stickers, when you have stuff that's like cut out, those edges are going to be like vector lines that you use to follow the blade of the machine around. Yeah.
So it allows you to kind of like expand the image without distorting the image?
That's another thing of it too.
Yeah, that's what it sounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So within the actual file itself, it's like basically a set of coordinates. Okay. And the computer is able to like infinitely expand or contract.
Yeah.
It's great for a lot of stuff. But if you want to do something like say like a life drawing that has all kinds of gradients, like lots of shading, lots of lines, that's not going to be vector anymore. That's going to be, it's going to be other file types, but it's just very different.
Yeah. More detail, I would assume. I mean,
definitely more detail. It's not like a point to point line based drawing anymore. It's
So you learned how to do both of those things now?
Yeah, so a lot of my artwork is kind of a combination of the two things.
Yeah.
For things like text, which is pretty consistent throughout logo design.
Yeah.
That's going to be a vector layer within the actual piece.
Okay.
The drawing is done in like a separate program from the vector program. And I often will like create the vector objects and import those into the program after.
Got you.
And the cool thing is within that sketching program, you can take the vector layer because it's all created in layers.
Yeah.
You can lock the layer and then you can do things like airbrushing
On top of it, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it really brings the vectors to life.
Yeah.
And,
Lets you just do that, take it to that extra step, you know?
Exactly.
And that was all self-taught.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Trial and error.
That's crazy, man. You just got to it, eh? Watching those videos and just trying it yourself.
It was really inspiring. Like for me, before even signage, like as a kid, I always used to doodle. Like I was probably doing that more than paying attention in class.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. And I loved painting. Like oil painting was something I used to do a lot of, and a little bit of acrylic stuff too. But being able to finally transfer that type of an art skill into what I do, as opposed to like the signage, which was very stale compared to that. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it's more just like the labor side of it rather than now you're in the art side, you know?
100%. There's also there's like this saying in signage, because everything is always like go
Okay.
in signage. You want to get it done.
Yeah.
They always say design is the enemy of profit.
Interesting. Yeah. So maybe expand on that a little bit. Why would they say that?
So for instance, I mean, a sign needs to be effective.
Okay.
And a lot of times like solid colors, bright colors are what's going to really work for that.
Yeah.
You don't need to sit there and like put a whole bunch of detail into something that a lot of times people are going to be driving by at like 40 to 50 kilometers an hour. And they're not going to see any of that.
Yeah.
So it's just not useful.
Fair.
Taking 15 hours on something like that is not great.
Well, sometimes you see these high-end companies, billboards or logos or like marketing, and it's like all orange with a Nike check mark, and that's it. And I'm just like, man, the designer that did that, like that's
it, right? And like the thing is it's one thing to have beautiful design, and that's great. It all has its time and place, but sometimes being effective is the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's a combination, and you need to grab the attention, and you need people to actually respond to the advertisement, or else, you know, all this work you really put into it is just getting left on the sidelines, and for no reason really. You did more work than you had to, and not in a bad way.
Exactly.
Sorry, not in a good way, I mean.
You can't make love to have your job.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to look at it. So being the one-stop shop, now you're doing the design, you're printing the logo, and especially I saw with the Niagara job you just did, you're going and installing like the window panels yourself.
Yeah, so the installing side of things kind of comes from the previous part of the sign. So like I would fabricate them, like I said, and that was everything from like metal work to custom carving.
Oh, wow.
Wiring up the LEDs to light the signs, setting up the signs so like the customer can control the lights and colors from their phone,
that's
stuff
cool.
like that.
Yeah.
And of course, like installing vinyl. I do car wraps as well.
Oh, there you go. Like you said, easier to say what you don't do.
A little bit of everything. Done a lot of those, but not as many in the recent years.
Okay.
Just hasn't been as much call for it.
Got you.
But taking those skills and being able to apply them to what I do now has been super useful.
Dude, I mean, like you said, you're one person, but you're doing the job of a whole team, you know, and it's really cool to see, and that you're able to do that, you know, because clearly you're passionate about it, you know, the artwork side, and being 19-20 years in sign building, like, not that it's, like you said, not that it's the most exciting thing, but you're clearly passionate about it, man, clearly. Thanks. So it's awesome. I love to see it. So at what point did you decide to, you know, through COVID, you learned the digital side. At what point were you like, okay, let's go and make an investment and get a printer and start taking on that side of the business?
So I've worked with printers, CNC machines, and different types of, like, I guess, different types of machines like that since like the beginning of it.
Okay.
And I mean, I always knew that was probably going to be the way, but there's a huge barrier to entry for that. It's like
what is that barrier?
They're pretty expensive.
Okay. Yeah, financial barrier.
Yeah, a little bit. And I wanted to make sure that like once you get it, you've got to make sure you've got the continual customer flow and stuff like that. The biggest thing I think for a lot of people, not so much an issue for me, is maintenance on these machines.
Okay.
When something goes wrong, if you have an issue or if you haven't worked with them that much, like I'm very lucky that I worked with signs for so long and in different sign shops. I got an opportunity to work with a wide range of different printers, Mackeys and Rolands. And I got to learn like a lot of stuff before I just kind of experimented on my own machine.
Yeah. Be the employee before you're the boss, man.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And through working at some of the other shops, like I learned I can service the printer myself. I don't have to call.
That's crazy.
A
tech.
Yeah, I don't have to call in a tech. That gets expensive.
I would
very
assume.
fast.
Yeah, I would assume.
Like having one of those guys in to change out a head or something like that is like $5,000.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That's
it's rough.
Yeah.
But,
that's crazy.
And also because I got to work with a bunch of different printers, I really got to see which one I liked to work with.
Yeah.
Like once you buy one, you're just stuck.
You're stuck with that machine.
You like it or not.
I have a buddy who works in printing, and that seems to be, some of the cruxes at the places he work at.
100%.
Is they go and they buy this expensive, fancy machine that no one there understands.
Yeah.
And then every week they're paying a tech out the ass to come in here and train people on this part of it again, or show people this.
It can be a nightmare.
And then they fire the tech that they trained everything.
Yeah.
And then what? Now we got to do this all again. Like that's a huge blessing that you were able to, get that experience.
Massive.
Yeah.
Like I haven't had to have somebody out to service a machine yet once.
Wow.
Now, again, I bought the right machine the first time.
Fair. Yeah.
The Roland
having that knowledge.
Yeah. Like it's a Japanese machine and man, they just do stuff right.
Yeah. It just works.
It does a lot of stuff for you in the sense that a lot of the fiddling you'd have to do with some of the competitive machines.
Okay.
It's just not part of it.
Oh.
Also, the machine I purchased it with having car wraps in mind.
Okay.
There are just the type of ink it uses and stuff. When I print on vinyl, I can heat up and stretch that vinyl to like incredible, like a piece like this, I can stretch that far. And there's no color loss or anything like that. It stays consistent.
Yeah.
So that was
it's just
really
quality.
Big. Yeah.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
And I'm sure it comes through in the work that you do now because you've made that choice. It pays off on the
it's
back
been
end.
Worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been worth it for sure.
So making that investment obviously was a big step, kind of a risky thing as an investor. You're investing in yourself.
Very much so.
What were some of the things you just made sure before you made that step?
Okay, so I made sure that I had a good supplier for materials.
Okay.
So basically, I'm going to the same suppliers that like sign companies go to.
Got you.
A lot of those people won't even work with you.
Yeah.
There are consumer-friendly suppliers to go to, but you're going to be paying that type of a price. But if you want to get vinyl at a reasonable price, you've got to be in with one of the suppliers.
Yeah.
So there's like a vetting process, and I made sure that I got all that taken care of.
Smart.
A big one was cost of inks.
Okay. That's another one you don't even think of.
No.
I wouldn't think of.
Well, it's a very common thing is people will buy a machine. And then you have on-brand inks, and then you have off-brand inks.
Okay.
The off-brand inks they're not terrible. They're okay. But once you use them, you can't go back to, you have to do a full printer flush and change lines and stuff like that before going back to the regular inks. And my machine does Pantone matching. So I can pick a Pantone up and I can match that color exactly over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go to those off-brand inks, that's not a thing anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, it just doesn't work anymore.
It doesn't, and the color is not repeatable in the same way. You can't get a consistency, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah.
And also the warranty on the machine is void.
For sure. So we have that same thing in the growing industry with pH pens.
Yeah.
So for the calibration fluids, companies will make the fluids have different dyes in it, even though they don't need to. Yeah. But then if you use another brand's calibration fluid, the warranty's gone.
Yeah.
Even though it's the same thing, really, but
it's always a thing.
It's just a protection on their own end, cover their own ass, I guess. But
they want you coming back, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, on that note, you just make sure you have a good supplier for the dye as well, the ink as well.
Wanted to make sure that the ink wasn't going to be crazy. I'm very lucky with the machine I have as far as that goes. Yeah, it's a nice balance of everything. There are machines that do fancier stuff than mine.
Okay.
I can't do raised graphics. Like, I don't have a clear coat in my machine, so I can't put color down and put a couple layers of clear. Like, some of those machines are excellent.
Yeah.
You can get some really cool textures out of that, but that type of print isn't going to be stretched or anything like that because you'll start to crack the clear.
Got you.
So it's really having the right machine for the right job.
Yeah.
This one covers all my bases. There's a couple things I'd like to do, and I'll expand eventually.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the downside of being an entrepreneur, man. Is you're always, anytime you make money, you're just gonna want to expand and get bigger and do the next thing, especially being passionate about it. You want to experiment and try all these different things, so it makes sense.
Always. There's always a new toy.
Yeah, exactly. So since expanding and offering all these different services now, what has been one of your favorite or like most interesting either designs or installs or like whatever has been your favorite one?
Favorite thing to do?
Yeah.
I'd have to say, to be honest, I really enjoy doing the video work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. It's, I've done hundreds of logos at this point. And like, a lot of them are around like 14 hours each.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of them, not all, but a lot. Yeah. So there's many hours doing that. And when I got over to doing some of the product photography and just different, like learning, the video programs and stuff, it just gave me a chance to get back into that learning mode.
Yeah.
Like I remember right around COVID, when I first got into this, like the inspiration was crazy. Every week I was learning something new. And it very quickly went from like the basic vector-based stuff, as I mentioned, to the actual like full-on sketching the way I used to as a kid. And I just disappear into it for like hours. And after a while, you get used to that. So getting into the video stuff brought that back, which was a lot of fun. Same thing's happening now with the websites. Yeah. It's a different animal altogether.
For sure.
But the tools that we have now as creators to work with digitally has expanded so much.
Okay.
And if you don't know something, like you can literally talk into your phone and prompt something, be like, I don't know how to do this. Teach me how to do this. And it will teach you. Yeah. So
yeah, you just have to have the drive, man. And like what you're saying is, I think the core of most entrepreneurs is that search for the next learning, the next education. I'm always trying to find something new to do because that's what is exciting. And even though you could have the most exciting job ever, I grow cannabis for a living. I consult in large grows. As a kid, I look at that in the future and I'm like, I could never get tired of that. Yeah. But at the end of the day, once you start getting the repetitiveness of it and you stop learning new things, or like, okay, what can I do to learn more? How can I change this to try to get that, like exactly like you said, get that spark back and bring that drive out, or else you stagnate. You can't do that.
I feel that's got to be like 20% of it. If you're constantly chasing something new, and for me, like the music side of things was that for a little bit, but I consumed so much time and it's not as focused on what I do. Okay. So I couldn't really spend as much time on that as I'd like to. It's more like a hobby type thing. But if you can integrate some kind of new learning into what you're doing, especially as a creator, it's extremely rewarding.
I absolutely agree. I can't agree more, man. So let's get into the cannabis side of things. Obviously, majority of what you've been doing, I mean, on your Jamie Levitate's page specifically, is majority cannabis related.
A lot of it.
Yeah. I know that the Levitate Studios prints, you're doing more stuff outside of that as well, but still participating in the cannabis community. When did cannabis become part of your life?
So, I mean, for me, it's just dating me a little bit, but you know, I think I started cannabis compared to like what a lot of people tell me when they started it now. Like, I guess I started a little bit late, like probably late into my 18th year of life type thing.
Wow.
Like, I don't know, how old are you? Towards the end of grade 12.
Yeah, you'd be 17, 18, because
Yeah.
usually, depending on when your birthday is, there's those couple kids that can sign themselves out in grade 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you gotta be
exactly.
18.
Exactly. And I took a victory lap too. So
I'm
it was
with you
probably
there.
somewhere in between.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
But where I grew up is a place called Woodbridge.
Okay.
And for anyone who's ever been there before, it's a very Italian community.
Yes.
And I did not see weed anywhere there.
Interesting.
Except for my own house.
Wow.
Like, my dad's always smoked weed.
Okay.
Always.
Yeah.
Whole life.
Yeah.
I can't remember a time where he didn't. We didn't know about it. Like, you know.
Just wasn't talked about.
No.
Especially when it was
But you
illegal.
knew there was something going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I didn't really see it until I moved out of Woodbridge, like end of grade 11, grade 12.
Yeah.
And then most of my buddies smoked weed. And I had like a band. I always played music going up through high school and stuff. And I mean, we'd get together and we'd have our instruments with us. We'd play sometimes. But we're mostly screwing around. And I ended up smoking a bit of weed with those guys. Like I said, you had to hide everything back then.
Yeah, for sure.
So we went to like the middle of a school field at night. It was like pitch black and stuff. We just sat in a circle and passing a pipe around, and I got so fucking high.
Your first time?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just ripped.
That's that's awesome.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Was it a good time?
It was a great time.
Yeah.
It was a great time.
You had a good first experience.
I had a good first experience. I tried to ride my bike home. Probably not the best idea. There was like the way the street was set up. There was this big round street and a bunch of like cul-de-sacs in the middle, and then exits to get to where you needed to go.
Okay.
And to me at that time, once I was high, everything looked the same.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure I just went around that circle for like 2.5 hours.
You're the car in the roundabout.
Yep. I'm just trying to find something that looked different.
That's
Oh, man. It was crazy. It was an ordeal.
Oh man, that is awesome though. That's awesome. So you would have been, like you said, around 18 at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty close there, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Those are the times that, like, even still, you know, I look forward to those stupid high moments with your group of friends where you can think about, you know, dumb stuff like going in a circle for a couple hours.
Yeah, it was great. It was good.
Too good. So at what point did cannabis become more part of your life? Was it kind of right after that you became you were into it, or?
I mean, you could probably say that. So, I mean, at first, I don't know how long it was like this for, but at first, like every time I'd meet up with my friends, I'd be like, hey, let's smoke a little bit. And eventually, I remember it was when my dad found out that I smoked too. It had been a couple months, maybe a year. I don't think it had been a year yet. Yeah. At least a couple months though. So like around Christmas, and my dad and family friend were passing a joint back and forth in the garage. I went out with them just to hang out with them and stuff. Yeah, as you do when you get older. Yeah, and my dad's buddy was like, so Jamie, you're going to smoke that joint? And for the first time I grabbed it in front of my dad and I smoked it. And I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. It was so down. It was so happy. Yeah. What a moment, father and son moment, man. Oh, yeah, it was good. Yeah. You got to love it, though, like the bonding that it brings, you know, especially in a moment like that where it's like, kind of hush the first time, and it's this is it was like intrigue and a sigh of relief all at the same time. It's like, oh, so good. Oh, that is awesome, man. That is awesome. So obviously from them on out, kind of you were consuming regularly. At what point did you combine, or did it kind of
was it kind of the idea to combine your design with the cannabis community, or did that just kind of happen?
So so once I started, kind of, it was just pretty much like I smoked all the time. Like I was high at work. I was like
Me now.
most of the time.
Me now. Yeah.
I mean, I felt like it kind of calmed me down and relaxed me a little bit. Like my head's always going a million miles a minute.
Yeah.
And it just kind of took that down a little bit, which was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found like drawing with it was pretty sweet. It's not that I need it for drawing or anything like that. In fact, I'm probably a little bit better when I'm not high.
Interesting.
Or
does it help you get into the zone though? That's what I find most people seem to say.
Helps me get into the zone, but especially now with the digital stuff, when you're trying to keep track of, like, in some cases, like, you know, hundreds of layers.
Yeah.
For some of them.
Yeah.
It's a little bit easier. Like I've been high and drawing on what I thought was the layer I wanted to be on.
And you weren't.
No.
Yeah.
And that is a nightmare. Like you can only undo so many times. You know what I mean?
Fair. Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. So there's ups and downs. It definitely gets me into the creative mood, but it's not necessarily required.
I got you. I mean, that's kind of cool. So when you started offering the services for digital design, it was like your first customer. Was that a cannabis related thing, or, you know, how did that kick off?
So the logos and stuff, definitely was cannabis related.
Yeah.
Like I built the machine and I was just kind of just trying to do everything I could with it. Like I've got this computer, I've got Corel, I can do sign stuff, but it's not like I'm going to be designing the signs for the shops that I worked at. They had computers for all that stuff. Yeah. And typically, like, that's an at-work thing.
So you were still working for the other shops? Okay, cool.
Once I first had the
there was an overlap.
Yeah. And that went maybe, you know, half a year into COVID.
Yeah.
And then work tapered off because stores weren't opening.
It makes sense.
So slowly I started to try and find work, and we were doing, me and my old partner were doing the tall grass markets. So,
I remember. Shout out.
So I knew, So I knew a whole bunch of like legacy brands and a bunch of people like small brands that just kind of wanted to get started. Yeah. Just looking for stuff. And I kind of learned doing that.
Nice.
Yeah. All of my first logos, if you go down my page and stuff to the very bottom, that's where it starts.
Yeah. So you haven't deleted anything like some people do. You have it all out there for the world. Yeah. I like it. It's all out there. So those are the day ones there.
Yeah. And I remember a big learning experience was through COVID. Basically, I mean, we couldn't all see each other. Yeah. So the events and stuff kind of died a little bit. Yeah. We'd already done them for like a year at that point, where like people were coming out, and we wanted to find a way to kind of help a lot of our friends who like had these companies. Like, how do you get your customers to see your product? Yeah. One of the things we came up with, and some people may remember this, you may not, but we did Tallgrass magazine.
Oh, wow. No, I missed it.
It was a digital magazine only. It wasn't printed or anything like that.
Wow, that's cool though.
It was pretty neat. It gave me an opportunity to kind of really polish up layouts. Any of the companies that wanted to be part of it, they get like a page, and we'd have, you know, basically their menu and stuff done on there, a way to contact them. And I'm sure some of them worked a little bit better than others. Yeah. It kind of all depends. But
part of the learning process though.
Yeah. It was a ton of work, but extremely valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. I mean, dude, doing that type of thing and blending what you know, your new passion with something that you're already passionate about, and now you're helping out the people that you are already working with, like it seems like it's just meant to be almost.
It was nice. Like I was able to kind of like, I used the design work and stuff to kind of create a feel around the Tallgrass events. Like a lot of them had themes and stuff. Like we did the Zombie Fest, and you know, the posters would have like tentacles or something weird, or like teeth coming out of them.
Yeah. But you did all of the posters, all of the marketing, all of the printouts and stuff. That was all just done in-house when you were doing those events.
Yeah, there were some things like some flyers where we did the design work. Yeah. My printer does vinyl mainly. I don't do like poster card. I don't do I can't print business cards. Like I can print them, but I can't really cut them.
Got you.
So that stuff I would outsource to like a printing company. But
got you. Makes sense.
All the design work was us.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, like I said, combining all those things, and then I mean the vibes at Tall Grass was always just great, bro. You know, it's a bunch of friends having a good time, you know, and obviously that property is great.
It's a nice place.
Yeah. So I mean, now we talked a little bit about your cannabis use now and how you're battling, or I mean, going through a diagnosis of CHS, cannabis hypermesis, for people that don't know. So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, first off, what that is, and how you've been managing having a positive relationship with cannabis still and dealing with something like that.
Yeah, so I would say first, it's kind of like a stalemate at the moment.
Okay.
So I've learned how to kind of work around it in the sense, I guess, a quick history. Like I've been dealing with CHS probably for 10 years.
Yeah.
Only in the last couple years did I realize that that's what it was.
Caught you.
So, and for me, where to start? I guess all of a sudden, you know, I used to be, I smoked like a lot.
Yeah.
Like a lot, all the time before. And eventually one day, I would be out doing something, and all of a sudden I'd have these, like, I'd start feeling sick.
Yeah.
And it's like queasy. And I mean, there was a couple times I went to the hospital in the early days, and it was kind of, they didn't really know what it was. It was like, oh, maybe you're allergic to something. Maybe it's food poisoning.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know,
a list of things.
Yeah. Everything from like you're lactose intolerant, not the case.
Yeah.
To, what's the other one that people,
gluten? I was just going to say MAP or
all of
gluten.
those things.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people with this situation go through the same thing.
Yeah. I know somebody personally that went through the exact same situation.
Yeah. It's, and the thing is too, when you go to the hospital and you're dealing with, like, a lot's changed since when it was happening 10 years ago till now.
Got you.
Basically I would get sick anywhere from 2 times a year to, like, I think the most was like 5 times a year 1 year. It was pretty rough. And I like each time I do my best to kind of deal with it at home, but eventually you get so dehydrated from throwing up and stuff that you end up you got to go to the hospital.
You got to get on fluids, basically.
Yeah, you got to get an IV and stuff like that. And they give you like the full gamut of like pain meds to get rid of things, and you end up burning through that stuff really fast. And I mean, when it's happening, when you're in one of those episodes, I guess you would call it.
Yeah.
You're pretty much useless.
Yeah.
Different people get it at like different levels. Like sometimes it's definitely worse than others.
Yeah. So just for the people that don't know, CHS obviously is almost basically like a cannabis allergy. How would you?
So
yeah.
I'm not a doctor, but from what I understand is basically your body has like what's it called? Endocannabinoid system or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have this receptor in your brain called the CB1 receptor.
Okay.
And THC specifically can either upregulate or downregulate that.
Got you.
So I'm sure everybody or most people who smoke like a decent amount of weed or eat edibles, especially, you've probably had too much at one point.
Yeah.
And weed's gone from making you feel very good to very bad.
Yes.
And this is like an extended version of that, kind of.
Got you.
So it bonds with that receptor, and you get what's called like a downregulation of the endocannabinoid system. And different people represent express the symptoms in different ways, but they're generally similar. Some are more severe than others. Generally, you feel terrible. Like you can feel cramping in your stomach and cold sweats, inability to speak for the most part. For a lot of it, like just talking makes you kind of shudder and stuff. I dealt with before I figured out how to get it under control, I started dealing with like anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Like I thought I just was growing up and getting anxiety, not realizing that like
it was a causal.
Yeah, like so for now, like right now for me, I smoke every day, but I smoke at the end of the day.
Okay.
Like I have able, like that's it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my thing.
Yeah. So that's how you're maintaining that positive relationship still with, I mean, your body kind of telling you, not to.
Exactly. Like a lot of people who have CHS, they kind of have to just abstain.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's because, like, I guess keeping it under control and like only smoking that little amount is probably pretty difficult for a lot of people. But for me, it's
For sure.
It's not too hard.
How long would you say you've been following that method and sustaining not having, a bout?
So my last episode was probably like I made a mistake and I went through a rosin competition.
Okay.
And I smoked way too much there.
Yeah.
And that, like, it's not an immediate effect either. Like if you smoke a whole bunch on like this day, it may take a day or two for your body to be like, okay, that's it. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I didn't know that.
that's part of what makes it kind of hard to peg at first. Like I remember the first, like a bunch of times I went into the hospital, I'm like, oh, I didn't smoke a whole bunch like today or yesterday.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I still had it in my system from a couple days prior.
It stays in your system for a decent amount of time. So, I mean, I guess it makes sense. But like you said, it makes it difficult to pinpoint because it's like you said, oh, I haven't gotten stoned in 2-3 days. How could it be that?
And you start to think like, well, if I didn't feel like this the day that I smoked so much, it must not be that. Like it can be a confusing thing.
Yeah.
But there's a couple symptoms of this that I would say give you a pretty good idea of what it is.
Standout symptoms?
Well, I guess habits. So if you're starting to feel like this, you're getting sick and like you're not physically sick, like you don't have the flu or something, and you're constantly throwing up, and you happen to be one of those people, like speaking to your listeners potentially, and you may be dealing with this. One of the ways I would say maybe this is what you're dealing with is if you find that getting into like a shower, like a hot shower, as hot as you can have it, like and it's got to be a shower. Bath isn't going to work.
Interesting.
But if you get into the shower and it basically shuts it off like a light, you've good chance you've got it.
Got you.
I don't know what it is about that does it. It's like it's a neuro thing, right? Like
it sounds like it.
Yeah. The THC bonding with that CB1 receptor, I guess stimulating it with the hot water and stuff probably has something to do with it.
Yeah, possibly. If anybody knows, hit us up. Let us know the actual science. But
please. But and I mean now, because they're dealing with it like more often in the hospital type thing, when you go in and you're like, oh yeah, I've been stuck in the shower for like 3 hours, but then my hot water ran out, so I had to come in. Yeah. They're like, okay. This is the problem.
That was kind of where I was going to get next. Obviously, when you were dealing with this first, it was a lot more difficult because there was less education out there about it. Do you find now when you're going into the hospitals, I mean, hopefully not going into the hospitals, but when you've had to, it seems to be more receptive. Like they seem to understand.
Better.
Yeah.
1,000 times better. First of all, when I first started dealing with this, like, you get treated like a drug addict kind of sometimes. Yeah. That's kind of faded, which is really nice.
Which is awesome.
Which is really nice.
Yeah.
And it also depends on the practitioner you get to.
For sure, like, always.
Some basically hand you a pamphlet and they're like, here's how you get off of weed. If you need to talk to somebody, we're here.
Yeah.
And other people are like, listen, you just got to take it down for a bit, stop smoking, see how it makes you feel. And if you really want to smoke weed again, try a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
So did you ever experiment? Because I was told this by one of my other friends that has CHS. Did you ever try the CBD route?
So yeah, interesting thing. So when I was going through some of the episodes, there was a while where I had some really CBD, basically CBD weed. Yeah, concentrated CBD weed. And that actually helped. Like it would help a little bit.
Okay.
Now, again, it matters how much CBD versus THC there is.
For sure. Yeah. For sure.
So you can still run into issues there, but definitely it seems to be specifically THC.
The THC.
Not the CBD so much.
Yeah. I've read a little bit that they theorize right now that it has to do with the climbing THC percentages, which is something we're noticing and people are searching for higher and higher THC.
Yeah.
Concentrates being used more and more and becoming more potent as well,
Yeah. You would think that smoking pens and stuff would be like probably a good option, but that's actually worse.
So that's what I was just going to get into the access that you have with these vapes. Not to demonize anything.
Non-stop.
I smoke a vape when I'm in a setting that I can't consume otherwise. But I do try to stay away from it because I'll smoke a 90% cart in a day.
Yeah, so that's part of the problem, right? You can go through it really, like it's accessible everywhere. You don't have to like pack your bowl or roll your joint or anything like that.
Can't, we all know that inhaling anything into your lungs isn't good for us.
Yeah, probably not.
Like we know that, but at least, people have been inhaling cannabis for how long? For as long as we can record, basically. And there's not too much negative effect other than the inhalation of smoke itself. We really don't know too much about these the concentrates and the long-term consumption.
Yeah.
It's fairly new, man.
Fairly new. I think in most cases there's probably more benefits than downsides, at least personal belief. Again, not a doctor.
Absolutely.
But for a lot of people it seems to help quite a bit. If you're a lover of cannabis and you end up with CHS, super unfortunate.
Yeah.
But if you're a heavy bong smoker, just switch to maybe smoking like a bowl or two, smoke joints instead.
Yeah.
Stopping, like I used to smoke the bong all the time. Every like hour or so I'd be doing a rip. And as soon as I stopped that, I noticed some of the side effects, like some of the other side effects I mentioned, like the anxiety stuff, like kind of gone.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Which is that's great to...
I guess for most people, cannabis helps with anxiety for the most part. But like everything, I think it's just moderation. You know what I mean?
And I think it's just dependent on the person too. A lot of people that growing up in high school, we were smoking every day together. A lot of those same people seem to have hit a point where it was like, it's giving me anxiety now. Yeah. It's not what it used to be. But we used to have so many less worries on top of it, So now in those moments where we're stoned sitting there thinking of nothing, it's not nothing. It's life. The stresses and everything that we deal with, So, it's got to be rough, man, with the CHS. I do feel for you. I couldn't imagine. I really hope that it's not something that I have to deal with. I've had signs that possibly, but I don't think so. We'll see one day.
Just remember the shower thing, man.
Yeah.
If you ever find yourself living in the shower for a while, then maybe just dial it back. Like I said, you can, not everyone, but at least in my situation, I've been able to mitigate a lot of the problems just by dialing back.
Yeah, which is
benefit
huge.
Is now when I do smoke, I get super high.
Which huge. Honestly, I do miss that. Whenever I do a trip out of the country, I usually take a tolerance break. And when I come back, it's
like the first time again.
It's crazy, you do 4 weeks without smoking, and then all of a sudden you're like, holy, this is why. Actually, the first time that happened to me was probably like 3 years ago. And I came back and I smoked a joint of some weed from one of the grows that I worked at the time. And it was the first time I understood how people like check themselves into a hospital when they're stoned.
Oh yeah.
I got so stoned that sounds were starting to like trip me out. And I was just like, okay, because my experience before, I knew that it was cannabis and it was just going to fade away. I just had to ride it out.
Yeah.
But if you didn't know that and you were in that experience, I could totally see why somebody would panic.
Yeah, I feel that completely. I used to have those cake pops that are like 400 milligrams each.
Yeah.
I eat like 3 of those.
Whew.
Well, you say that now, but at the time I was like, these things suck.
Yeah.
They don't do anything.
Yeah.
And a couple months ago, I had a friend gave me a 50 milligram gummy. I give my mom those.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
She's okay
That's
with
what my
that.
dad eats.
So I had one of those, and because I don't really do that anymore, I was on a different planet. Wow. Once again, I couldn't really tell where. I knew where I was, but I couldn't. Yeah, I was somewhere else. I was
couldn't compute.
Yeah, my friend ended up driving me around their subdivision and stuff, just trying to help me kind of relax and stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm so high. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, even for me now, I find like I can consume 1,000 milligrams of THC, no problem. It doesn't do anything to me. I found personally, actually, if I consume like rosins over distillate, I do feel more of the effect. I think that's from the whole full spectrum thing. Fair enough. I also don't get the hangover. You know, if I eat 2,000 milligrams of distillate the next day,
afterglow,
I'm groggy.
Yep.
I'm groggy. You know, it's rough. But if I eat, you know, rosin, it seems to be different, and that could just be a personal thing. I'm not sure, but that's what I've been noticing lately, at least. So with your consumption, like you were saying, it's just the bongs now. You know, that edible was too much.
Well, not even the bong. I smoke like a bowl out of a pipe at the end of the night.
Oh, nice.
Maybe 2.
Yeah. Depends on the night.
But yeah.
Try not to push it.
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it. Like, again, I used to smoke like every hour or so. Like I had my bong rips down to like an hourly thing.
Got you.
Do my rip, get back to work. And like a lot of times while designing and stuff, like I'll mentally disappear.
Yeah.
If I don't have somebody there beside me, or like someone doesn't, you know, poke me to go eat dinner or something like that, I'm gone for hours mentally. So I'll forget to smoke.
Well, I mean, that's crazy because I mean, I have ADHD diagnosed, and that's the main reason that I consume cannabis as much as I do, because I'd rather do that than take the Vyvanse, because it works.
100%.
It works for me.
100%.
You know, some people need the Vyvanse, and I'm not knocking that. But if I could just smoke cannabis instead, I just think it's a better overall.
I think the long-term effects are much less.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
I still get to be me.
That I was about to say.
When I was taking the speed, don't get me wrong, it helped me when I was in high school and taking exams and having to sit in a class and focus. Yeah. But as soon as I started experiencing the real world, it wasn't helpful. Yeah. You know,
the real world isn't really geared for people operating on that level all the time.
Yeah.
Like there's times and places for it.
But. Yes, for sure. And honestly, I find that cannabis puts me in that middle ground where I can still express and be who I am, but I can still be reasonable. But I'll still get into moments like you were just saying where it's a hyperfixation. And it's like, you know, my girlfriend will be like, oh, you've been smoked in like 5-6 hours, and I'm like, well, now I need to.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's that time again.
Yeah, you just reminded me. So I do the same thing with eating. I'll go a whole day without eating because I'm working on a certain job until somebody's like, have you ate? And I'm like, oh no, I'm really hungry.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that completely.
Oh shit. Well, man, I think that's mainly what we had to talk about. I'm glad that you were able to and willing to talk about CHS, because that's something that everybody needs to learn about. It's huge, and being somebody so in tune with the cannabis community and dealing with CHS is, I mean, it's an impressive thing that you've been able to keep that positive relationship and, you know, keep spreading that joy to the community.
Yeah, I would say to anyone who may have it.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the diagnosis. It is actually very important that if that is something you're dealing with, that you do figure that out.
Yeah.
Like I said, 10 years, multiple trips to the hospital, sometimes a week to 2 weeks at a time. Holding a job while going through that, not easy.
Yeah.
I'm lucky because I have my own business and I work for myself and stuff, so I'm okay now. But it presented a lot of difficulties in life. For and not only that, the THC itself isn't going to affect your body, but when you are getting rid of that many nutrients and you're getting that dehydrated, you can actually go into like, you can have kidney issues and stuff like that. So it is important that you like, you know, just, I know it's the last thing you want to hear as a weed smoker, but if it's the case, if you're doing those showers, man, look at it, see if that's maybe it, and just dial it back a bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate that. And I'm sure there's going to be a couple people out there that appreciate that too, because it's got to be a challenging thing, but you're going to make it through it, you know, just like you are. So, all right, man, thank you so much for coming out. It was awesome having you and telling your story, and I'm sure we'll do something again in the future.
Amazing. Thanks for having me.
To everyone watching, if you enjoy what we're doing, make sure to like, follow, and share on YouTube at High Passion Pod and on Instagram and Spotify at High Passion Podcast. If you want to keep up with our guest today, drop them a follow on Instagram at Levitate Studios Prince or on his personal page at Jamie Levitates for all your graphic design needs. I want to give a huge shout out to Sean Sweeney at SeanCS10 for everything you do for the podcast and making this all happen. To all our viewers, I hope you tune in next time. And until then, stay positive and stay passionate.